Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the Sig Sauer Studios. On the Patriot Mobile Platinum Microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Armed American Radio's Daily Defense begins right now. Mark Walters here in the Sig Sauer Studios in front of this powerful Patriot Mobile Platinum microphone. Welcome inside the Armed American Radio Studios at the ranch with me. It's a Thursday, day after Garbage Day. Always fun to have you with us today. And I want to thank all of our partners that make it possible. Please make sure to visit all of them. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. Armedamericanradio.com. We'll talk about them as we move through the hour today. You can watch us live. We're up on social media, facebook.com/armedamericanradio, facebook.com/armedamericanradio. Get involved in the comments. Talk about the show. Talk about the topics. Make sure to subscribe to Armed American Radio podcast at Armed American Radio at any one of your favorite podcast platforms. We're on every single one of them, have been for 17 years. You know that. Make sure to do that. You can also watch us on Twitter at AARMark, YouTube, Armed American Radio with Mark Walters, and Rumble with Mark Walters. Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. Let's get started for the day today. Parkland father Ryan Petty joins us. Ryan, how you doing today, brother?
Mark, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, brother. Hey, there's a couple things I want to talk with you about. You know, I did the old Google gun control thing today, right? I like to do that once a week, just out of the blue, right smack before showtime, and see what pops up. Oh, good heavens. I'll let you take your pick, but I think I don't. Do you ever do that?
You like raising your blood pressure, huh?
Well, I'm under doctor's orders to keep my blood pressure down, you know. Yeah, I take there, but there's medication for that, right? So, and it works, as you know. We've talked about that, but yeah, it does. It just raises your feathers. One of the first stories that popped up was from Time Magazine, and I couldn't resist before airtime to talk about this with you. Two of them in particular, but this one from Time popped up because it's 6 hours old. I mean, it just showed up. We've been thinking about gun violence all wrong. How do you think, without going past the headline, because I hate headline surfing. I warn people about it all the time. Don't be that headline surfer. You've got to get into the nuts and bolts. But when you know a publication like Time Magazine, you have a predisposed notion what direction they're going to move or want to move or likely will move. When you hear a headline from Time Magazine that says, we've been thinking about gun violence all wrong, all of a sudden, May 15th, 2025, Time Magazine says we've been thinking about gun violence all wrong. How do you think they'll go? What do you think they'll do here?
Oh, they're going to share their leftist wisdom with us, I would imagine. We've all been thinking about this incorrectly. And somebody over there at Time Magazine has had a little extra time on their hands, put two and two together,
figured it all out.
Some of that progressive math, 2 + 2 = 5 kind of math, and they're going to enlighten us, Mark. That's what I'm imagining you're about to read.
Yeah, well, let's start with just the first couple of lines, first couple paragraphs, really. But it's almost Memorial Day weekend, the unofficial start of summer. Our pools are already open because we live down south of the Mason-Dixon line. Your pools are open all year because you're down in Florida. And the season when we see gun violence cases rise nationally across the country. Now, that's a true statement. When we've talked about that with Chicago, you know, gun violence, crime, okay, ticks up constantly. And we'll be reading the numbers throughout the summer, guys, just out of Chicago alone. It'll blow your mind, but it won't blow your mind, but it will. This is a predictable increase every year, leading to more media stories and government conversations about what can be done to reverse the trend. Now, here's the kicker. Gun violence is a uniquely American problem. Oh, for crying out loud. Ryan, how many times has that been debunked? We're not at the top of the list. We're in the middle of the list. This gun violence, what they're talking about is criminal action with firearms, ladies and gentlemen. The vast majority handguns, the vast majority crimes committed by gangbangers in Democrat-run cities. Let's get that out there because that is a fact. You cannot debunk me on that. Simply do the math in the Democrat-run cities across the country. Wipe out Democrat-run cities, wipe out 90% of crime. It's that simple. Gun violence is not a uniquely American problem. So when you see that, bam, Ryan, there it is, right in your face.
and I just debunked this in a piece I wrote for the Federalist using some research that Dr. John Lott has put forward. America ranks somewhere 57th or 58th, depending on how you want to count this. But this is something the gun control activists and the left in particular likes to throw on America. America's bad. America needs to change. We need to do something different, and that's how they make us feel guilty, or they hope we'll feel guilty about owning firearms. Because, Mark, we're the problem, right? Law-abiding gun owners are the problem. So if you believe, or if they can convince you to believe that America is uniquely different and has a unique gun violence problem, then they can convince you to give up your firearms. Well, they're not going to convince me, not going to convince you, and hopefully they're not going to convince any of your listeners. But there's nothing further from the truth. And the piece I did in the Federalist this past month, I would hope would put this argument to bed, but here it is again.
Well, it won't. It won't, because you and I talked yesterday off air. The left will never what?
They're never going to stop.
They'll never stop.
Quit.
Ladies and gentlemen, they will never stop. And in an upcoming show, I'm going to let some of you have it, but that's in an upcoming show. And it's going to be based on the premise that the left will never stop. It's that simple. It will never end. Now, what's interesting about this writer, and let's name him here. His name is Jens Ludwig. Have you ever heard of him? I've never heard of him.
No, but he sounds European.
Yeah, he does sound European, but that I may be off on that. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's not. Whatever. Maybe he was born and raised in South Detroit by, immigrant parents, and that's his name. I have no clue. Unfortunately, the way we've thought about gun violence has made the politics of progress nearly impossible. The even bigger problem is we've been thinking about gun violence all wrong. The most politically contentious part of the debate, he says, has been about gun control. Guns, on the one hand, make violent crime much more deadly, but at the same time, can also be used for self-defense against crime. So I thought, okay, well, he has stated a fact there. He's right. Most of the anti-gunners never talk about the self-defense aspect of firearms. They just go after the negativity and the criminal activity. And they spill that over onto us. That's how they do it, by not mentioning the self-defense part. He says he's spent most of his professional life looking at the economics of crime. I thought, I know somebody that's done that too, especially gun violence, and how to prevent it. The best available data, full disclosure, he says, I was one of the researchers who conducted this study, suggests that if there was a way to somehow get rid of the 400 million guns we have in the U.S., a country of 330 million people. Now, he throws that in parentheses, ladies and gentlemen, to drive home the point without saying it, that there's more guns in America than there are people. That's why he did that. On balance, he says, things would get substantially safer. Now, Ryan, let's have that conversation briefly. I will tell you right up front that if there were no more automobiles in the United States, there would be no more automobile accidents. Is that a true statement?
You are correct, sir. Yes.
If there were no firearms in America, would violent criminals stop shooting people? If there were no guns, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the absolute, there are no guns in America. This is the argument they like to point out. While at the same time, you can probably tell where I'm going with this, Ryan, and you too, listeners. At the same time, somehow hinting that there would be no more violent crime. But Ryan, if there were zero guns in America, would there ever be a shooting in America?
Zero guns. The hypothetical you're posing, Mark. Zero guns. There would be no shootings.
No heroin overdoses. Fair statement.
No, if there were no guns, there'd be no heroin overdoses. No, I don't believe that's
No. If there was no heroin, there would be no heroin overdoses. Right?
Oh, correct.
Okay,
absolutely correct.
So you see the direction we're going with this. The problem here, ladies and gentlemen, is this reeks of, again, not saying he's not saying the quiet part out loud. You got to kind of think when you read into this stuff. Okay, why is he mentioning that? What's the point? Because at the same time, the anti-gunners will tell you, Ryan, nobody wants to take your guns, right? Nobody wants to take your guns. But at the same time, well, if there were no guns in America, there would be no gun crime in America. Not crime, ladies and gentlemen, gun crime in America. And actually, that's a true statement. If there were no such thing as guns, nobody would be shooting each other. We'd be killing each other in other ways because human beings have been killing each other and offing each other and beating each other up and murdering each other long before guns were invented. Criminals would just find another way. Now, Ryan, we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back from the break, I want to continue the conversation. There's more in here, but I find it fascinating. It's almost like time is trying to right the previous wrongs by bringing this guy in to talk about this in a more moderate way, although he's not really. We'll be back. Ryan Petty, Parkland father. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues right after the break. Don't go away. The following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, welcome back to the show indeed. Patriot Mobile is presenting this segment of Armed American Radio. This is the Patriot Mobile mic, and guess what? Patriot Mobile's Danielle Buck will be joining me at the bottom of the hour. Ryan Petty will be sticking around with us. We'll be having a fun conversation with her. We'll get her involved in some of the politics of our gun rights and all that cool stuff and see what they've been up to over at patriotmobile.com. And if you are watching on any of your devices or listening, doesn't matter. You just won't see the phone, but I'm holding up a Patriot Mobile activated phone. You too can do the same thing. Support the businesses that support your rights and support your lifestyle. It's incredibly important. Trump's in office. We're all safe. No, we're not safe. That's why we talk about this stuff every day, because the left, Ryan Petty, welcome back, will never what?
Never stop.
They will never, ever stop. And by the way, if you're watching, I'm just looking at you got Corvette convertible hair today. Guess what? Don't care. Ryan, welcome back to the program, brother. I want to continue on this Time magazine piece. Because, again, the guy appears to be, as you read through the piece in its entirety, trying his level best, Ryan, to be moderate on this and not go after guns. He reminds us that, quote unquote, the murder rate in the United States is relatively the same as it was in 1900. Now, that's a whole different topic. That's a conversation I'd love to have with Dr. John Lott. We won't go into that today. Maybe we'll bring John on the program, ladies and gentlemen, on a Monster Cast to talk about that on an upcoming Sunday show. Heck, we might even do it this weekend. I'll talk with John about this timepiece and see if he's seen it, because I'm sure he would love to comment on it. But at the same time, Ryan, he's trying, it appears almost desperately, to appear moderate on the issue. And I'll continue. But what the perspective misses is, as he says, even if we can't get rid of all guns, okay, what the perspective misses is that the main effect guns have on gun violence is to make violence more deadly. Even if we, now, let's go there to that sense. If you beat me to death with a club, is the violence less deadly or more deadly? Let's look at rifles, Ryan. Rifles are used in only about 400 to 500 murders a year across the United States, and that number has been pretty consistent according to the FBI. More people are beaten to death with things like bats and sticks and fists and feet and blunt objects than rifles are used to murder people. So where does that miss the point here somewhat?
I mean, I can hardly contain myself. He's missed so many points. I don't even know where to start.
Take a
to
pick.
Be honest with you, Mark. I mean, first of all, we're on this whole hypothetical of if guns didn't exist. This is the kind of la la land fairy tale that the left likes to indulge in. It's all part of their utopian vision for the world that requires you and me to give up our freedoms and our individuality to conform to the way they would like us to participate in their version of society. And this whole notion that guns are not going to exist, no, that doesn't happen. All we have to do is look back at history to understand that when you disarm the population, you leave the government as the sole owner of guns. And we know how that movie ends because we've seen it in communist China. Mao killed 56 million of his own people through starvation and other means. They had no ability to defend themselves. They had no ability to fight back, and they had no ability to feed themselves or their families because they didn't have a means to defend themselves or protect themselves. We watched Hitler disarm the Germans and the Jews prior to World War II, and we saw what Stalin did when the state controlled all of the firearms. So Mr. Utopia over here is living in his academic world, sitting in an office, probably somewhere in New York City, with visions of sugar.
Strawberry flavored unicorn
delusions.
farts, bro, is what it is.
Yeah,
it's completely delusional.
Is what he's doing, and it's completely delusional, and yet. Because he's trying to be reasonable, again, Mark, this is a tactic. You know it is. It's a tactic to sound reasonable so he can get those people that just don't think to come alongside him and say, yeah, maybe a little more gun control. That would solve the problem. We know, in fact, it won't. The problem is not the gun. The gun doesn't cause the crime in Chicago, in inner city Chicago, or downtown Los Angeles, or inner city anywhere in the United States. The gun is is the tool used by the criminal that has every intention of hurting other human beings and enforcing their or imposing their will on another human being. And firearms are the great equalizer. They are not. Yes, are they used by criminals? Absolutely.
Of course.
But they're used more often by law-abiding gun owners to protect themselves and defend themselves. And most importantly, what this gentleman forgets, what Jens forgets, is that the most important use of those firearms is to protect our liberty and our freedoms. And so it's just hard for me to sit here and wallow in his delusions. As fun as it is to read this stuff, now you got my blood pressure up.
Well, be careful. He is. I honestly believe in reading this that he believes this. Okay, so if I read this from his perspective, if we analyze this from his perspective that he believes this, it's kind of hard to do, but it will give you it can give you a different take on it as you maneuver through it. He says, even if we can't do all that much about guns, we can make real progress on gun violence by reducing interpersonal violence. Now, here's where the liberal progressive comes out. Can't we all just get along? What are we going to do? Can't we all? What this misses, Ryan, is that there is evil walking the earth. There are people who will kill us for the chain around our neck. There are people who will do harm and violence to our family, who will murder us. There are evil people. The prisons across this country, ladies and gentlemen, are filled with evil people. Okay? Now, again, if you forget that evil exists, it's easy to concoct pie-in-the-sky theory, if you will. If you eliminate the fact in your own brain that evil isn't real, that somehow it can be controlled, that bad guy A, well, if you don't give him a gun, he won't be bad guy A. He'll just be not nice guy, but he won't be violent because he doesn't have a gun. Last I checked, the Romans were very successful at killing millions of people without a firearm. And that takes me back to the statement that gun violence is more deadly that violence is more deadly with guns. And tell that to the guy who got his head beaten in with a baseball bat. Now, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, how many people of you listening don't have a gun but have a bat near your bed or by your door? Probably many of you. Why? It's a pretty violent weapon if you use it as a violent weapon instead of hitting baseballs, for that matter. But it's interesting. In fact, a growing body of data, he says, and evidence shows that preventing shootings in the first place is not only possible, but enormously cost-effective compared to the traditional policies of U.S. partisan politics. Now, I'm going to agree with that statement. Preventing shootings in the first place is cost-effective compared to other policies. The question is, as he tries to break down, I know we're getting ready to take a break, so I'll try to get this out as best as possible and as quick as possible. But where he's trying to go with this, ladies and gentlemen, and I've just been told we're going to take a break. So here's what we do. When we come back, Danielle Buck from Patriot Mobile will be here. We'll introduce her, and we'll continue part of this conversation with her. Yeah, we're going to rope her in because we have to. It's quite fascinating, ladies and gentlemen, to see the way these people want to appear moderate. Yet at the same time, what he's doing is this pie-in-the-sky wishful thinking that if guns didn't exist. But they do, he says they do. So we just got to find a way to be nicer to each other. We'll continue the conversation when we come back and continue the deep dive. Among that and other issues. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues on a Thursday with you. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom. The guest on the line right now is Ryan Petty, Parkland father. Coming up, Danielle Buck from Patriot Mobile right after the break. Don't go away.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Oh, guys, welcome back in. Sometimes it's just fun being here behind the scenes and hearing everything that goes on. Great to be here with you today. Welcome back inside the Armed American Radio Sig Sauer Studios. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day. And we are, of course, at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center, and I am in front of this powerful Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center microphone. And we welcome now Danielle Buck from Patriot Mobile. Danielle, how are you today? It's great to have you back.
Great to be on. I'm doing really well today. Thank you for asking.
Well, we're going to rope you into an ongoing political conversation about gun rights from Time Magazine and how to stop violence. But before we do that, where are you today? You sound like you're mobile. Tell us what Patriot Mobile is up to.
Yeah, it's been a busy week for us at Patriot Mobile. I was filming the Moms for America Mom View TV show yesterday, and we had our board meeting. And you caught me a little bit still in transit, which I'm sure many of your listeners are as well. Headed back actually to deal with my family and my young children. Yeah. The main reason I am a huge Second Amendment supporter. So, as you can imagine, my husband is former military, and so he was always a huge advocate. And then when we had children, it was amazing how that shift really happened for me. And so, yeah. Anyways, no, but I'd love to hear this Time Magazine. What's going on?
We're going to get you neck deep in that, but you said a couple of things I want to touch on. Also joining us, and I believe he was on the show with us last time that you were on, and that's Parkland father Ryan Petty, who knows all about this very well, more so than others. But you mentioned something about being a parent. I want to go to Ryan on that too. Ryan Petty, welcome back, my brother. Fun to have you here. Thanks for sticking around with us for the remainder of the show.
It's great to be here. And Danielle, it's good to be on the show with you again.
Guys, here's the deal. Patriot, Danielle, you just mentioned when you became a mom, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
Did what? Now you made mention that your father, that your husband is former military. I would say he's retired military, right? And
yes.
What went off in you? What did you feel? You became a mom. Instinctively, what happened? And I know the answer to this question. I can't wait for people to hear it because it happens to every mom I've ever met of any political persuasion, which is why this is so important.
I mean, I think it's called mama bear instinct, right? Mm-hmm. It is something that literally awakens inside of you that I will do anything in my power to protect my children from any harm. But when I am a small female and I am faced in a situation that I obviously would be physically outpowered easily, right, to protect my children and to protect myself, of course a gun is the great equalizer, right? I love the way that, Diana Muller teaches the Women for Gun Rights ladies to speak about this because I think it's so powerful because it is truly about self-defense and protecting our families.
Well, I'm sure you do, obviously, because you just said it, but I'm going to go even a little bit further. I will kill anything, and I mean literally, I will kill anything attempting to harm any member of my family, period, including my dog. Including my dog. It doesn't
animals,
matter. Yeah. She's as much, little Huey is as much a part of my family as my kids are. Ask them. In some cases, sometimes even more. You got to, guys that love your dogs, where I'm going with that. They hold a very special place with us as our family members. But that instinct that instinctive drive is powerful. How do you respond, Ryan? Let me ask you this. How do you respond as a parent yourself, as someone who lost his daughter at the hands of the evil we were talking about in the previous two segments, to someone who would say to you, and they are out there, Danielle, you've heard them, I'm sure, we'll go to you in just a second, that say a gun is not the answer. I agree with you, but a gun is not the answer. How do you respond to that, Ryan?
Well, there are times when the gun is the perfect answer. Danielle just mentioned one. I mean, look, I could be walking home, 6 guys decide to attack me, and the gun then becomes the great equalizer, right? It gives me the ability to defend my family against 5 or 6 or 3 attackers, whatever the number is. There's absolutely a time and place for that. We have the right to defend ourselves. Self-defense is a God-given right. It's recognized by our Constitution, as we all know. And And as we were talking earlier, Mark, the whole part of the equation that this guy in La La Land forgets is he doesn't put in the defensive gun uses, the good that comes from our ability to keep and bear arms and defend ourselves and protect our families and protect our loved ones and protect other Americans. Guns are used for good more often than they're used for evil. He's only focused on the evil side of the equation,
while eliminating the fact, or at least not mentioning, that evil exists. Danielle, I know you'll agree with the statement I'm about to make. But in order for you, when you began your journey in self-defense, I'm going to bet money that in order for you to take your self-defense seriously, you first had to understand that there is, in fact, evil out there wanting to do you harm. If you don't believe that, you would have no reason to feel like you would have to defend yourself. And that goes back to well, I live in a good neighborhood. I don't live on the wrong side of the tracks. I live in a gated community, right? Nobody's going to break into my house. I don't have to lock my doors. It's not going to happen to me. I'm only going to the grocery store. How many flippant excuses have we heard? And I can't even tell you how many victims I've spoken to. I've written 2 books about this and talked to people who have been victims who had that mindset. And something inside of you changes right off the bat. And as you just mentioned, you mentioned Diana Muller, who is helping to empower, I would like to say, millions of women across the country. But she has clearly affected you and has affected me as a longtime friend. So how do you respond to that person that would say to you, Danielle, I'm trying to be reasonable. I don't know why you carry a gun. I'm a mom too, but I just don't think a gun is the answer. I don't like guns.
Yeah. Well, I think, first off, we try to find common ground with them. So, yes, we all want to be safe in our homes and communities. And if they can kind of connect with you as a person and find a shared values, and then obviously go into that differentiation of actually, I respect your decision to not carry a gun, but for me and my family, we personalize it back to me and my family. I'm going to protect my 2 little boys at all costs. And if I'm to or from picking them up, taking them into places where, I don't know the surroundings. And if I were ever to be in a situation where I had to use it, I wanted to be obviously properly trained and armed to be able to protect myself. Because I think at the end of the day, anyone would agree that self-defense is a natural human right. And I am my own first responder. I mean, I cannot rely on another person to protect me and my children. And therefore, I'm going to do what I have to do to protect them.
Yeah, and you don't want to have to do that, do you? Again, I'm going to make probably a safe
bet. Absolutely not. I don't want to.
You don't want to have to call somebody, your husband, God forbid, 911, and say, I'm in trouble. I need help. You better be here 5 minutes ago because it's happening now. You do not have that time. Now, I have talked to countless people who have said that to me. A gun is not the answer. And both of you, Ryan, I know you've heard this, Danielle, you haven't, but I was in the green room doing the Stossel show at Fox News a number of years ago, and I had an opportunity to speak face-to-face with a young man who was shot 4 times at Virginia Tech. And, I know that area well. I went to college 9 miles from Virginia Tech when I knew I could picture everything in my mind because I knew the area so well. And he was on the gun control side. In fact, he was a paid lobbyist for, at the time, I believe, the Brady campaign. And I won't mention his name at this point. It doesn't matter anymore. I don't think he's there. But nonetheless, his response to me was, I appreciate what you're saying to me, Mark, but another gun is not the answer. And Danielle, I asked him if we could wake up 32 of your colleagues from the dead and ask them if they would either want a gun present or to have a gun themselves so that they could have lived their lives, what do you think they would have responded? And his response to me, Danielle and Ryan, was, Mark, another gun is not the answer. And I that just baffles my mind, and I hear you chuckling, Danielle. Take us to the break.
I'm laughing because it's like actually ignoring the fact that guns save lives. Look at the statistics of how many times a gun is used to save a life.
When we come back from the break, we're going to continue the conversation with Danielle Buck from Patriot Mobile. She's awesome. She's going to tell you where to go to get your phone activated over at Patriot Mobile as well. And that's patriotmobile.com/AAR. There's the cheat for you. But we'll talk with Danielle about some of the cool stuff going on over there. Ryan's going to stay with us as well. Don't go away. One more to go on the flip side of the break, guys. Those of you tuned in on online and on the chat will note that Greg is gone today. Martin in the chat just mentioned that. Yeah, Bob, and he said, "Is that Bobby in the background?"
About
Yes,
30.
it is Bobby in the background. Bobby, you're famous.
What's up?
What's up? Bobby's going to be with us tomorrow again too. Greg will be back on the Sunday show. Big announcements coming up on the Sunday show, guys.
Greg's retiring?
It's not that big announcement.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
Roger that. Let's do it, ladies and gentlemen. We're back from the break right about now.
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
Hey, we can have some fun with that. This segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Danielle Defense, because we're talking with Danielle Buck from Patriot Mobile. She's laughing back there in the background. Welcome back, guys. Great to have you here in the 6 Hour studios with me. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today on this Patriot Mobile platinum and very powerful microphone. Please go out of your way to visit all of our partners. We're here for 17 years on air because of them. Patriot Mobile, of course, is one of them. We'll talk about with Danielle in just a moment about how you can activate a Patriot Mobile phone and why, in fact, you should be doing that, obviously, because they support you and your right to defend yourself with a firearm, which is, of course, the topic of this program, and Patriot Mobile is all over it and all about it. But I want you to go and visit all of our partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com, including budsgunshop.com, budsgunshop.com. They are our exclusive online retailer. BarrelBuddy.com, BarrelBuddy.com. All of our great partners, you can find them all. Emerson Knives is over there. Goat Guns, get your Goat Guns, feed your new addiction, because building those things is a blast. They're way fun to have, and they make great gifts. Guess what's coming up in June? Father's Day. Goat Guns are the real deal, and they only run about $39 to $45 on average, and they are so cool. He's going to want more than one, so pick up more than one. MyPillow.com as well. You can find all of our great partners, including Heaven's Harvest. Heaven's Harvest for your emergency food supplies. I have a ton of that stuff. Yeah, something happens to me, if my family's eating like a king for a couple of years, I can tell you that. I sleep better at night knowing I have it. All of our great partners are at ArmedAmericanRadio.com. Ryan Petty, Parkland Father, welcome back, my brother. Always fun to have you here.
Great to be here, Mark.
Yeah, we're going to continue this conversation because we're going to get Danielle into the time conversation. But before we do that, would you be kind enough, Danielle, to tell people about all the cool stuff going on over at Patriot Mobile?
Yeah, so Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. You just mentioned it. We give to defend your Second Amendment rights by every single cell phone bill you pay. And every person listening right now, you have a cell phone. So whether you're an individual, a family, or a business, we can service you. Because one of the beautiful things about Patriot Mobile is that we have all three of the major networks. And so if your phone works in America now, which I'm sure it does because you're on it all the time, it will work with Patriot Mobile because we have all three of the major networks. And we even have something that's really unique in that we can have multiple carriers on one device. And so keep your phone number. All you have to do is switch over, get ported out of your current carrier, and come on over and actually defend your Second Amendment rights by paying your cell phone bill.
That's a win-win situation all the way around, ladies and gentlemen. When you can, for example, if the organization, for example, like Defender Coffee, Danielle, has been a partner of ours for many years. Did you know you can support your Second Amendment rights simply by buying coffee? You just made the point. Most of us drink coffee. I do in the morning. So I drink Defender Coffee because guess what? I don't pay any more for the coffee. I get better coffee than I would get at a grocery store. It's fresher. And they donate a portion to the Second Amendment Foundation. When you're activating a Patriot Mobile phone, Patriot Mobile is defending your gun rights through all of their activities everywhere they go. It's the same thing. It's a flat-out win-win all the way around. And I can tell you this on my Patriot Mobile phone. I have watched it switch to networks when I've lost service in certain areas. I see it flip to another network, and I have service when my wife is going, oh, my phone service sucks. I've got full service. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, very important, particularly if you have children. That's huge.
That's right.
You will be guaranteed that. Okay, well, I got to go back to this timepiece here because we made it clear that all of us here on this panel understand that evil is real and that there are bad people. I am going to have to just kind of put this in a nutshell. Danielle, where the writer is going here is that while the left and right disagree politically on guns, we all agree that if there were no guns, there would be no gun crime. However, there are guns, so that's pie in the sky, progressive, wacko thinking because they're there. So it's not he's not making an honest argument if he tries to go down that road. But what he does do, and this is interesting, the root of gun violence is not what we think it is. Both the left and right, despite their heated disagreement, share an implicit assumption about gun violence, that before anyone pulls a trigger, they carefully weigh the pros and cons beforehand, that gun violence is a deliberate, rational act. That's not what most shootings in America are. Most shootings are not premeditated. Most shootings instead start with words, arguments that escalate and end in tragedy because someone has a gun. Now, I would argue that it's not because someone has a gun, but it's because someone is intent on criminal activity, period. Now, there is truth, Danielle, that no doubt it's the heat of an argument. That's why cops it's so dangerous to go on domestic disputes and so forth in the heat of a moment. But gang violence is where 95% of gun crime, to use their phrase, comes from, where violence comes from. And I can promise you, I've never heard of just a happenstance drive-by shooting when gangs who are committing the vast majority and elevating murder numbers in Chicago are killing each other, and that's where the numbers come from, Danielle. That's pretty much premeditated because they're going to fight another gang. That's what happens in most of the shootings the left refers to as a mass shooting. We find out it's two groups of people trying to kill each other. That's clearly premeditated, is it not? Or am I out in left field?
Yeah, I mean, think back. This has been going back to biblical times where people have been fighting other people. It's just the weapon has shifted, right? It's kind of in human nature. And so, yes, unfortunately, you hit the nail on the head there with your analysis of you could take away the guns in a perfect world, right? Hypothetically speaking, but then they would just use some other form.
A club. We were talking in the first couple of segments about a baseball bat because one of the statements he made is that guns make violence more violent. What? I could argue that it's more if more people are beaten to death with bats and clubs and feet and fists and crowbars or pieces of wood or sticks they get in their hands than are shot by rifles across this country every single year, and that's borne out by FBI statistics. Ladies and gentlemen, don't take my word for it. You can view it at the FBI Uniform Crime Report, the UCR report. Look it up. It's all there. Ryan Petty, I'd like to get your comment on that, please. Do we have Ryan? Is Ryan Rock? Oh, there he is. There he is. I hear you.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm on a bad connection. I need to get Patriot Mobile here set up pretty quick.
Yeah, we're working on that, by the way. You're going to be shifting 5 phones over, so let's throw that out right now. Danielle will be talking with you guys about that just later today, in fact.
Yeah, fantastic. So, look, regardless of the source or the reason, for this, a lot of this stuff is heat of the moment. A lot of this stuff is random violence, particularly in these blue cities, Mark. This is, but if these guys, look, again, I'll go back to this point. If these guys didn't have guns, they'd use knives. If they didn't have knives, they'd use clubs. I mean, look at what they're having to deal with in the UK right now. They banned guns a while back. And what are they doing now? Now they're considering banning knives because all the criminals started using knives. The problem is the criminal, not the tool, right?
Or do the music.
Well, yeah, and Danielle, we've got 30 seconds. I'll let you take us to the break on that one at the top of the hour now that we're coming to a close. But obviously, as you point out, Danielle, people have been killing each other in violent ways since the dawn of man. I go back to the caveman, never leave your cave without your club because your cave wife wants you to come back safe and with food that you used your club for. I bet he'd rather have had a gun. But nonetheless, it's all true. Danielle, tell us again, where can people go to get Patriot Mobile? And I want to thank you in advance for being here.
No, absolutely. I mean, we would love for you to join Patriot Mobile. So please visit our website, patriotmobile.com, or call 972-PATRIOT. You guys have an amazing code for a first free month of service. And if you are an NRA member, a GOA member, a TXPR member, one of the many organizations, we also have codes for those. And that's 15% off your entire bill, which really will help you save a lot.
That is the real deal. And Danielle, if you would be kind enough to hold on to the line for just a moment, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio.
All clear.
All right. Hold on to Danielle for a moment, would you?
Yeah, I'll wait till we clear out here.
Thanks.
It'll take a couple minutes.
Okay.
All right, she's going to sit tight. I'll be right back.
Great. Thanks. Guys, thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate it very much. We've got a little bit of work to do with Patriot here off air, but make sure to check them out, please. PatriotMobile.com. Use that /AAR extension. PatriotMobile.com /AAR. Activate a Patriot Mobile phone today and get a free month. Please support our partners, support Armed American Radio. We appreciate it. And tomorrow is Friday. We will likely, no doubt, have the professor himself, student of the gun, Paul Markel, joining the broadcast for a solid hour. And he's a fan favorite for a reason. If you're new to the show and you've never heard him, don't miss Paul Markel tomorrow. He tells it like it is, pretty much straight up. If the FCC wasn't controlling our airwaves, it'd be a lot more fun. But when the podcast is out and we get Paul on, the conversations will be extremely lively. They're lively with FCC control anyway. But we appreciate you being here for the National Live Radio broadcast. We're going to get up and do it again tomorrow precisely because they don't want us to. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. See you on the radio tomorrow.